that, Scott, I'm curious, tell us a little bit about your journey in terms of how you got started with assessment at ARS.
Yeah, thanks, Kim. It's interesting because I started kind of in the assessment seat 5 or 6 years ago. ARS partnered with MDA to help develop their general managers across the business. And so 70 GMs flew up to Minnesota. We did in-person assessments with the goal of helping us develop as leaders to become better leaders. And so our journey started there, but didn't stop there. So as our leaders continued to develop and we continued to grow, we were starting to find, commonality in certain areas of top leaders versus low leaders. And so we partnered with MDA to really help us on the selection process, right? So now I spend a lot more of my time on the selection process because we did the growth planning. We wanted to invest into our people. And now we're using the data we have from that to help us make better selections. It's interesting, I kind of wrote a note down off the poll. The poll items were highly leveraged in things that you can ask in an interview, like tell me about your experience and tell me about, other things. The low scoring items such as cognitive ability is a very difficult question, like how smart are you? You know what I mean? And so I think what MDA does is it balances emotion and excitement with data, right? You went to the same school as me, your kids go to the same, kinder care. You find commonality in the interview process, which, subconsciously skews, a little bit of your ability to make that selection process. And so what MDA does is it comes in behind you and really takes a very unbiased approach to balance all that excitement you may be feeling about a candidate, whether that's internally, like you may go to develop someone and, something might show up there, or on the selection process. And that's kind of how I started with MDA, and it's been a great journey. But I actually started in the assessment process, so it's fun to go through it myself prior to even partnering on a more deeper level.
And I guess I'm curious too, because oftentimes I have to give our clients some not great news around their candidates. They're very excited about this candidate. They go through the assessment process. I have to say, yeah, here's where they have some strengths, but here's some watch outs. And they end up, having to maybe start over in some case. And what's interesting is they're thanking me for it. What's been your experience in terms of when you got those messages, received those messages that maybe the data doesn't align with what you thought would happen?
Well, it's very interesting. It's the crossroads, right? The crossroads of, am I going to go with my intuition or am I going to go with the data? I've gone with my intuition, and I'll tell you, it hasn't worked out too well sometimes. It's tough when you really think about the goal. The goal is to hire the right person for the right job, not for today, not for this month, not for this week, but for the next few years. In most cases, when you're hiring higher level candidates, you need them to be in role 3, 5, 10 years. And if you can really avoid making those mistakes, the feedback I've gotten, Kimberly, on some of the assessments is less about like, they won't be able to do the job, but the runway sometimes will be significantly longer than we are able to handle. And it's really about avoiding that cost if you do make a mistake because you went with intuition. So those I've had them with Megan on candidates that we've worked with on assessments where it's like, man, I really wanted that candidate. But at the heart, if it's really about hiring the right candidate, I need to listen and balance all those things. Listen, it's not an exact science, it's not the Bible, but it's another data point in the interview process.